Hi guys, my name is Borrodante, and welcome back to Overpain. So we do indeed continue our Overpain month, and before we move on to our today's patient, Spichmax, I'm gonna say Spichmax, with his cool, mysterious, and scary composition, I want to go back to this previous submission by Elias and just make a quick review and give some notes on this artwork. Hey Borro, I'm a tad bit new to trying to draw realistically, and was wondering if you can give me any criticism on how I did and tell me if there's anything to work on. Well, generally, from what I see, it's a pretty good picture. Some anatomy details I would go a bit differently about. Let me just quickly see. So first of all, this part of the arm, the shoulder part, it usually goes always a bit downwards rather than upwards, like the curve. So it should go a bit more like this. I think this wrist area shouldn't be as narrow, and the whole forearm shouldn't be as long. So I would say it should go kind of like this. And of course we should pay attention to not making the limbs look kind of oddly shaped in detail. Usually the fingers shouldn't go all in the same direction. It's a good idea to at least put the pinky overlapping over the rest of the fingers. Already kind of better. This forearm is also a bit too long. The thing with limbs, which is interesting, every next bone is shorter than the previous one. So the shoulder one is a bit longer than the forearm. That's why when we bend our hand like this, actually the wrist is touching the very top of the shoulder and not this area because it's a bit shorter. Just a little bit, of course, don't do it too much. But it's just mostly about the proportions. Now, about the breasts, the clothing covered part is good, but in here I feel like this kind of line is missing because this is how the mass of the breast goes. It kind of goes away under the armpit. I think it basically works with any type of breast, like no matter what shape of actual breast is. This thing goes like there a little bit, like not too much. So yeah, it already looks a bit more defined. Right here it's kind of empty and you kind of wonder what's going on. Maybe a bit less strong if the character generally has a very smooth skin everywhere, you know? Now, this part, these lines, they're anatomically correct, but definitely shouldn't show up on like a female gentle chest. It shouldn't happen, and in here it should all disappear. Maximum what you would see is probably this. Nothing more than that, because otherwise it looks very weird. She's not anorexic, it shouldn't happen. So this looks a lot better in my opinion. So the face is generally good for the overall level of everything. It pretty much looks great, I think. I feel like still this forearm is too big. Well, there we go. I think the princess or some kind of lady looks a lot more natural right now. What do you guys think? And the horse, I really can't tell a lot about the horse, but generally in the whole style of shading, like basically not a lot of intense shading, I think this line wouldn't show up. Again, it may be anatomically correct. I don't remember exactly the anatomy of horse. I think there is the line like that on the muscles or whatever that is. But I don't think it actually takes place so strongly. Maybe maximum I would do a little bit like a hint like this, but nothing more than that. Yeah, that's the only part that actually makes me feel like it's a bit wrong there. Also, always nice to have a cool reflection on the ground from the awesome dress, like she's actually somewhere in an expensively built yard next to a big, I don't know, castle, so there's some reflection from the expensive stone or something. Always looks kind of cool to have that little effect. Basically just choosing an opposite angle for the lines to have this effect of reflection. So yeah, I guess this is it. Generally, like shading or anything, I don't think that's in any problem here. Everything looks fine. Maybe this curve is a bit too strong. Yeah, just like that. I think it works just awesomely. So there you go, LEZ. I hope this was helpful somewhat to make your drawings a bit better. So yeah, let's move on to our today's submission, Spitchmax. I'm just going to leave it here in hope of being overpainted someday. Well, your hopes are being fulfilled today, Spitchmax. So right away, I think I pretty much love almost everything about this picture. It's just really, really good. It is black and white, and we're gonna keep it this way. Of course, this is not a mistake to have a black and white painting. But what is the most important part of a black and white painting, almost like the only part of black and white painting, is values. So we should think about values, and not only on like the shapes of like the surfaces, where some parts that are facing upwards should be brighter, for instance, and the ones that are not facing upwards shouldn't be as bright to make things look a bit more real. I also talk about the values that are making the composition work better. One thing that I want to fix in here to begin with right now is to make this fog around the character a bit brighter to this point, and to make it follow the dynamics of the picture, like there's a chase, a bit more in a way that the fog would feel like it was, you know, pushed aside by the horse rushing through it. So we're gonna be doing that. We'll probably make the silhouette of this main character who's riding this horse a bit darker to make a stronger emphasis on his figure. I think that'll work pretty well. Plus he's a lot closer than the monster, so he has all the right to be a lot darker. There's no strong air perspective on him, and he's like important, and generally he's smaller. He takes a smaller portion of the picture than the monster, so it's a good way to balance out him with the monster by making him a bit higher contrast. I'm not sure what's going on here, by the way. What is that? Is he holding a thing, like an artifact that he stole? And now the monster is chasing him. That sounds like a thing. Maybe it's not, but let's make it this way. So let's make this orb actually a bright detail that would like attract our attention. Maybe not actually like bright. It shouldn't be glowing. It doesn't seem like it was glowing initially. Let's make it shiny. So we're gonna be doing that as well. And in here, we'll just push an unrealistic air perspective to show where the edge of that hood is going on, to show a little bit of like a mysterious character of this main guy. Also, the last thing, this is not a mistake, but I just feel like the face, the head of this monster doesn't fit a little bit to the whole style of the picture. It looks very noir, mostly because it's black and white, but also there's a lot of mist and black trees and everything is just so cool and dark, you know? And the head of the monster looks a little bit like a Halloween pumpkin or something. So maybe we will make him look a bit more like creepier and more mysterious also. But yeah, that's mostly what I want to do. Maybe I'll work a little bit on the silhouettes of the trees, making them a little bit more complex. Just a little bit to add them a little touch. Because they're like a pretty high contrast. It feels like the picture would benefit from having a bit of a more interesting silhouettes. So yeah, that's the plan. Let's go ahead and make it work. By the way, the composition is, I think, pretty much perfect. I love it in all the ways. I love how the character isn't too close to us, making him like too big. If he would be like a lot closer to us like this wouldn't be as cool. Like, it would be dynamic in a way that the horse is really close to us and everything, but it would make, you know, the monster not appear big enough, so it wouldn't be all scary. When there's a giant in the picture, it's always good to make everyone else not too big comparing to the giant. This is a good decision to make the horse at that distance. So let's start. Okay, so I'm almost done here, adding some bits of trees or whatever, forest or cave that this monster is crashing on its way after the main character. So yeah, this looks pretty cool to me. Just little details on the surface of the forest, so it wouldn't be just perfectly smoothed out by the fog, especially really close to the camera where there's not as many fog. Or should I say mist? It's all mist, because we're mysterious. So yeah, something like this. Shame I can't really tell if, like, I can't really help with the anatomy of the horse. I don't know that stuff all that much. Generally, I think for such a dynamic, messy kind of art style and this kind of angle, it's not really noticeable if something's wrong. So there we go. I made the monster, I think, a bit more serious and kind of like fantasy horror kind of looking. Yeah, definitely looks more fitting to the composition than the old version. Just kept the eyes because they're actually totally fine. Worked a lot on the horns, made them not as, you know, typically bent kind of actual horns from Vikings or something. So I made them looking like more like a weird crooked sticks that have a bit of a more cruel kind of shape. Looks more like something that a wooden giant creature would have. So yeah, I worked a little bit on those, played with air perspective and balancing out the shape of it by pointing these horns in different directions. I think it's kind of fun. And yeah, I also, a pretty important change I did, I tilted the whole monster a bit to the side and added the palm of his, right? So this is a big change to show that he's actually running and not just standing there like smiling. So there's some kind of chase going on now. And also I did that because this way I sort of balanced the composition. We can see how in here there's a lot more dark and heavy stuff, and the character is also kind of pressed to this side. So on this side we are missing a little bit of that dark mass. Maybe even make the stronger contrast on the palm right here when it's over the fog. Yeah, I think it totally looks fair. Yeah, and it balances out, like now we have this kind of cluster of dark spots in here that will work good for balancing. And yeah, I kind of forgot about this little thing that our character stolen, but really, do we need to add anything more? Here's like a hand holding this thing. There we go. Just pushed some values just a little bit to make the horse appear more like lit from the top, softly. And yeah, a bunch of broken branches on the trees at the bottom and longer branches at the top. That's usually how old trees go. So yeah, a very strong fog, and I played around with the contours of these trees by increasing the fog right next to the edge of the tree, making a silhouette stronger and improving this noir kind of creepy effect of the mysterious mist. So yeah, I guess this is it. Hope this was helpful. I think we kind of really improved the image with just a few really applicable universal tricks to make the whole picture look more impressive and dynamic, since this is a chase. Tell me guys what you think. Maybe I missed something, maybe we can add even more cool details to this. But I really love this picture, it looks awesome. I think it was pretty awesome initially as well. I just did a little fixes to fit it more to my taste. So yeah, thank you Spitchmax for your submission. This was a really awesome one. I love the mood and everything, kind of my thing. If any of you guys want to see your artwork being overpainted this way, the link to my Patreon page is in the end of the video. But keep in mind the queue of the submissions is still kind of big. We're working on it right now. So this would be it for now. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess you did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Play with the contrast. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. Also, would be cool if this would be like an alchemy kind of bomb that he's going to throw back and the monster will go dead.